What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Casts and Campfires. Thanks for checking it out. This week, I've got a special episode for you guys. I was doing some just blog reading and article browsing online the other day, and I came across this website called newventuretravels.com, and they had a pretty cool article on their website. It's a cool website. You should check it out. Lots of cool things on there. But I found a cool article that was 20 questions, trivia, and conversation starters for your camping trip. And I was like, this is really cool. We're going camping this weekend, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to take this along maybe and do this with the family. But I thought it'd also be kind of cool to just do this on the podcast. So we're going to do this together. So the trivia questions, I peeked at the answers. So I know the answers. I'm going to ask the questions and leave them up to you guys. But those, I'll save those to the end. So I'm going to do some would you rather, some if you could, and tell me about, and then trivia questions. And there's, like I said, there's 20 questions in total. So let's jump right into it. Would you rather camp on the beach or in the mountains? For me, this is easy. Mountains all day long. I live in the Ozark Mountains, so, small mountain range. I'd love to go to the Rockies or the Appalachian Mountains and camp. I've been to the beach before. I'm of the opinion that the beach is boring. There's just nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing you can do. Sit on the beach. Because I can't surf. I'm not taking out a sailboat. I'm not, fishing in the surf or whatever. You can wade out a little ways, but there's sharks that come in close. I'm not a big fan of the beach in general. It's fun for like a day, but I wouldn't want to camp on the beach. But I love the mountains. Mountains usually mean forests, they mean trails, they mean cliffs and valleys and rivers, and just everything that I think is amazing about nature is in the mountains. So I would much rather camp in the mountains. Number 2, camp in an RV or tent. For me, this is easy again, tent. I'm not against RV camping. My parents have a camper. Never camped in like an RV, just campers. But I would throw those kind of in the same category. For me, though, I'm tent camping all day, every day. Love camping in tents. I don't know, I just feel like it's more relaxing to me. So yeah, I would choose tent over RV camping. Car camping or backpacking. This is an interesting one because I really like both of these things. I have plans to turn my truck into a camper of sorts, not like a full-blown camper like you see online sometimes. Just like a very basic camping setup. So like if I ever go on an overnight kayak or boat trip or camping trip or whatever, I can just, sleep in the back of the truck, back seat or the bed or something like that. So I'm currently like floating some ideas and designs and things to try to turn my truck into a little like one-person camper. So I would pick car camping over backpacking, although I do like the idea of backpacking and just living out of whatever you've got in your rucksack. I do that in the Army occasionally. In basic training AIT, you do that. You ruck into a place and then you just set up camp in your field training exercises. And, we still do that in some way, even with drills every now and then in the National Guard. So backpacking, if you're not doing it in the Army setting, which is kind of intense, I can see how it would be a lot of fun and relaxing, but I would go with car camping because I'm already planning on doing that anyway. Hear a coyote crying or a bear sniffing around around next to your tent in the middle of the night. I don't know. I got to go coyote on this one because I think a coyote, like, I could hold my own. I don't think I could take a coyote. Like, I think it would probably still maul me or kill me. But I think with the coyote, at least I have a better chance. There's no way that if I get into a scuffle with a bear that I'm coming out alive. Now, depending on where I'm camping, I usually am armed with, like a pistol or something. But I don't think that my 9mm pistol is going to handle a bear if it, is sniffing around the tent and decides that it wants to attack me. So I'm going coyote on this one. Even though, to be fair, I think hearing a coyote cry would be more terrifying than a bear sniffing. I think if you figure out that it's the coyote or the bear, I'd rather deal with the coyote than the bear. If it's just the sounds, like you don't have to confront this animal, I guess, the bear, because I could just let it sniff around, and then if it, moseys off and doesn't harm me or my family, then I guess that'd be fine. But if I'm getting into a fight with these animals, I'm going coyote because I have a better shot of surviving. That's an interesting question. All right, go hiking, fishing, go to a hot spring, or just chill at the campsite tomorrow. You guys know me, I'm going fishing. Although chilling at the campsite is a close second. I love just chilling at the campsite, reading a book, depending on where you're at, if you're at the river or the lake, just looking out over the water, it's so relaxing and peaceful. But you know me, I gotta go fishing. I love fishing. It's my favorite activity, favorite hobby, by a mile. So I'm going fishing there with chilling at the campsite as a close second. All right, moving on, 6 through 10. If you could go camping at any national park, which one would you want to visit? I think Yellowstone. There's a few that I think I would really like to go to, but I think Yellowstone is probably on the top of my list of places that I want to go camp at. So definitely Yellowstone there, with, like I said, lots of others that are on my bucket list, but Yellowstone is probably number one. All right, number 7. If you could camp anywhere in the world next weekend, where would you go? This is a pretty tough one because, like I said, there's so many places in the United States that I want to camp. But honestly, I've been following this other YouTube channel, Explorebound, for several months now, and he does a lot of 4x4 and like off-road camping in Australia out of his truck. But he has it like all rigged out, and like it's a whole camping setup, which is pretty awesome. So in watching some of his videos, I've found that like some of the Australian like outback and just the landscapes of Australia are beautiful in their own way. The United States, I think, is more beautiful, but it's because I like mountains and trees and rivers and things. But the Australian outback and a lot of that terrain and landscape is also very beautiful. So I would probably say somewhere in Australia. Now, I know that there are tons of deadly animals that will just straight up murder you for no reason in Australia. Like, it's insane the amount of deadly animals that live in Australia. But I still think I would want to camp there. I've seen enough like Animal Planet and Outdoor Channel and, like I said, that YouTube channel and all kinds of travel stuff in Australia, and I just think that I would love to go camp in Australia. But that's a tough question because there's like, I could probably think of a dozen places off the top of my head that I would love to go camping. But anywhere in the world, I'm probably going to go Australia because I think it would be a really cool experience. Number 8, if you could make any dessert over the campfire tonight, what would you want? So we have these little like pie cookers. I don't even know what they're called, but it's on a hinge and it's got 2 cast iron like square plates kind of, and then they fold together and latch, and then we can put anything we want inside of that and cook it right over the fire. And we've done it with s'mores, and we've done it with like pies and all kinds of things. The s'mores are probably the best because you can use them. You can use it with bread, right? So we use like cinnamon bread, and then do chocolate and marshmallows. Put it all in this little cooker. Put it over the fire. Flip it, a couple of times, and then eat that. That is freaking delicious. Like, it's probably the most amazing thing I've ever eaten. So I've got to go with that. I would just call it a s'more, but it's so much more than that, right? It's like a s'mores cinnamon bread sandwich type of concoction. But it's incredible. And like I said, I don't know what we call it, but that's what I'm going with. If I'm making any dessert over the campfire tonight, that's what I'm making. Taking cinnamon bread, Hershey's chocolate, or Reese's, depending on what you're feeling, and then marshmallows in the middle. Press them together, put them in those cookers, or in that cast iron cooker, put it in the fire, let it cook until the bread is nice and crispy, like toast, and then just enjoy. It's incredible. You guys need to try it. Number 9, if you could choose either to camp by yourself with no one else around or in a crowded campsite, which one would you choose? Now, this is a kind of a weird question now that I'm actually reading it more like more closely. I would love to camp by myself. Like, I think that would be a lot of fun, and with no one else around, I think that would be really peaceful and enjoyable. I could really, relax and, unwind, and I think that would be really enjoyable. But to be fair, part of the reason that I love camping is the people that I do it with. So, like my family, like my immediate family, my wife, my 2 boys, but also like my parents, my brothers, my sister-in-law, my extended family. So part of the reason I love camping is who I'm going with. So I'd probably go with a crowded campsite, honestly, because at least there's, I know that there's gonna be those people around that I love being around and camping with, guys that I love to fish with and that kind of thing. So I'm probably gonna go crowded campsite, even though I think either one of those would be really enjoyable for me. I don't mind being alone. I love alone time. I love to read. I love to write, podcast, make videos, that kind of thing, fish. So I would love either one of those, to be fair. But if I've got to choose between the two, I'm probably going crowded campsite, because I know that the people that are crowding up that campsite are going to be my family, who I love being around anyway. So I'm going crowded campsite there. All right, if you could have any comfort from home on your camping trip, what would you bring with you? Either my laptop or I usually take my Switch and my phone. To be fair, a lot of the places we go, we don't have a lot of service around the lake and down at the river and whatever. So it wouldn't do much good anyway to bring any comfort from home. As far as electronics and that kind of thing goes. I usually take my Bible. That's a comfort for me. So I guess for me it'd be my laptop, even though I wouldn't really use it that much, honestly. Maybe just for doing some writing, like offline writing, or computer cleanup, or just random things. But I wouldn't use it for work or editing videos or anything like that. But I guess it would be a comfort that I'd like to have with me, just to have with me, have the option of doing something. Like I said, I normally take my Kindle with me with all my books downloaded so I can read. Anyway, I don't use the internet because, like I said, I don't have service. So I guess my laptop, since I already take my Kindle, would be the comfort I would take from home. All right, moving on. Next section. Tell me about number 11. Tell me about the craziest or scariest camping experience you've had. So craziest, let's see. It wasn't all that scary. I mean, it was kind of scary for a few minutes, but the craziest camping experience I guess I've ever had was the night before my high school graduation. So the night before my high school graduation, me and 3 of my buddies decided to go camping, and let me get a drink of water. We decided to go float the river, camp, and then get up and do a short float the next day, pack up, go home, get ready, and go to graduation that evening. And we get out on the water, have a great day the first day, floating, fishing, swimming. We had a great day. We get to where we're going to set up camp, and since there were 4 of us, right, we got 2 guys in 2 tents. 4 guys in 2 tents, so 2 apiece in each tent. Is where I was going with that. So the guy that I'm sharing the tent with, it's his tent, and we go to set it up, and he had forgotten one of the poles, and it was one of these you just have 2 poles that cross on your tent. It wasn't anything elaborate. So if you're missing one of the 2 poles, the tent won't set up. So we decided, all right, we'll just lay the tent out. Let's make the most of it. We graduate tomorrow. Let's not ruin the night, right? Let's make the most of it. So we'll just lay the tent out, put our sleeping bags on top, and we'll just lay on top. It's going to be a warm night anyway. It's May, right? It's may get a little chilly, but it's going to probably be fine in the night. So we lay down, we go to sleep, and we hear a rustling sound in the middle of the night that wakes us up because we're out, with it. And we wake up and we turn and look, and there is a raccoon like who has knocked over our cooler and is just rummaging through our food, just like stealing everything it can get its grubby little paws on. And it terrified us. I don't know if you've ever looked a raccoon in the eyes as it's actively stealing your food from your campsite. But I was filled with both fear and hatred at the same time because one, I was terrified this thing was going to just attack us because it saw us. But two, I was like filled with hatred and anger because I was like, that's our food. Like, we don't have anything to eat the rest of the time we're out here now. But it got everything it could get its hands on. It saw us, it bolted. Luckily we didn't have to fight it or anything like that. But we were pretty low on food the next couple of days. It had taken like a package of deli meat and like, I don't know, some cheese or something. It had taken some sandwich stuff. So we didn't have all of our sandwich stuff the next day, so we had to make do with what we had. That was probably the craziest thing that's ever happened to me in a camping experience. And it was pretty scary too, honestly. Like I said, I woke up to a raccoon, probably 6 feet maybe from my face, with its arms full of my food. So it was pretty scary. Not so scary that like I peed myself or thought I was going to die, but I thought I was going to have to fight a raccoon. So kind of scary. All right, tell me about number 12. Tell me about your favorite campsite you've been to based on the scenery. It may have been that same campsite, honestly. We just kind of pitched our tents on the riverbank, and it was on the Buffalo River, which is already very beautiful. So it was either that or we camp at Bull Shoals all the time, just at the campgrounds. But the scenery is beautiful there. Lots of trees. The campgrounds are always on points overlooking the main channel of the lake. And Bull Shoals is a beautiful lake. Lots of bluff walls and trees and undeveloped shoreline. So it's very beautiful. So probably one of those two. Either that time I camped, before graduation on the Buffalo River, just on the riverbank, or really anywhere on Bull Shoals that we've camped, because now certain spots are better than others at those campgrounds, but in general, all of those spots of those campground sites, they've got a beautiful view of the lake. So probably either one of those, Buffalo River or Bull Shoals Lake, which I grew up camping on both of those, so I may be a little biased. That's just how I feel about it. Number 13, your most memorable camping trip. Well, it was either the graduation night story, or there was one time that me and my youngest brother decided to go camping, and I'll probably tell this whole story. I'll have him on the podcast maybe sometime in the future, and we'll tell this whole story. But we went camping at my grandparents'. They have a bunch of land down in North Arkansas, and we went camping on their land, and we had some sort of animal just like chilling around just at the at the edges of our campsite. They were just chilling, walking around, stalking us a little bit, just checking out the campsite. And we, had some interactions with it in some sense, and then we ended up, like, we weren't sure what this animal was, but it sounded pretty large, which I know in the woods that can all be skewed, especially at night. But it sounded like a large animal. We couldn't really get it to go away or leave us alone, so we ended up sleeping in my car that night, on my grandparents' property. So not even like out in the wilderness, just on my grandparents' property. We slept in my car. So that was a pretty memorable experience. Like I said, I'll have him on the podcast, in the future, and we'll talk about that night in detail. But I'd say that's probably the most memorable. That or waking up to the raccoon, stealing my food was probably the most memorable. Let's see. Tell me about number 14. Tell me about where you want to camp next. So I'll tell you where we are camping next, and that is at Table Rock State Park in Branson. It's really close to where I live, maybe 20-30 minutes from where I live. Beautiful state park. Got a couple of hiking trails. Of course, it's right on Table Rock Lake. Good playground. It's a really nice campground, and it's at the state park, so really well maintained. Really beautiful place. So that's where we are camping next. where I would want to camp next, honestly, is either somewhere in Colorado or Oregon, maybe. There's a few places that I just know are beautiful out there. Now, there's, like I said before, there's tons of places all over the country I would love to camp. But I think Colorado or Oregon maybe would be top two as far as like other places, other states I'd like to go. I mentioned Yellowstone as well. That'd be a really high up on that list as well. But really anywhere out like west or northwest of where we're at. I'm in the Midwest, so anywhere west of me, I know there's lots of beautiful places out there to camp, and I'd love to go out there, any of those places. All right, number 15, tell me about your worst night of sleep you've gotten camping. Now, I could say either, sleeping in my car or the raccoon incident at the river, but honestly, this one is probably at basic training. Now, it's not technically camping. It was a field training exercise, so you go through 3 FTXs, field training exercises in basic training. The hammer, the anvil, and the forge. The forge is the last one. It's the longest one. You're out 3 days, 2 nights. You hike or ruck. I want to say it's like 12 miles maybe. It's been a few years since I did it. Like 12 miles out to your field training site. You set up your outpost and battlements and things like that, and you're just there for 3 days, defending this outpost that you've set up, and doing different formations, tactics, all kinds of training and things out there. And in basic training, the goal of the drill sergeants is to make you as miserable as possible. In the forge, they take that up a notch and they go even further, and they literally try to keep you awake all night. They ambush you. They do all sorts of just crazy things to make those 3 days as miserable as possible, essentially. And so the worst night of sleep that I've gotten out in nature is how I would, like I said, it's not camping, it's field training, but out in nature, was that last night of the forge, because all the drill sergeants ambushed our outpost, our encampment. They ambushed it and simulated an attack. They, simulated, killed a bunch of people. They made us, drag bodies up hills, dead people up the hills, and do different, triage and field medicine and all, first aid, all of that kind of thing in the middle of the night. So I don't remember what time this was. It was probably somewhere around midnight to 3 a.m. is when these attacks all happened. You're up doing guard duty and watch anyway. You're like 50% security, sometimes more. So you're like sleeping for an hour, up for an hour, that kind of thing. And then you get hit with this and you're up the rest of the night, and then you had to hike back to the barracks. So, or rock back to the barracks. So that was definitely the worst night of sleep I've ever gotten outdoors, ever. I basically got like 1 or 2 hours of sleep that night. Most of it was simulating combat, and then first aid for casualties, and then having to just do ridiculous, things because we messed up and we made mistakes and that kind of thing. So that was definitely the worst night of sleep I've ever gotten outdoors. Camping, probably the worst. It would be, that night that my brother and I were at my grandparents'. We didn't sleep a whole lot. Now, once we got into my car, we did sleep the rest of the night, but that was like middle of the night as well. So it was definitely, at basic training was the worst, but camping specifically, it was that night with my brother at my grandparents'. So a little bit of a, loophole in that question to tell you about basic training, but that was definitely the worst. All right, and finally, travel trivia. So like I said, I'm going to ask these questions. I have the answers to them, and I'm going to leave them for you guys. So down in the comments, leave your answers. If you're listening to this on the audio podcast, reach out to me on my social media. It's just the Freedom Fisherman on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and here on YouTube as well, and on TikTok. It's just the Freedom Fisherman. So reach out to me with your answers. Really, this is just for fun. There's no prize or anything like that. I just want to see what you guys know about some travel trivia. I didn't know any of these answers until I read this article, so that was interesting. So let's go through these. I'll give you the questions, and then, like I said, I've got the answers. Leave them down in the comments. If you comment with the correct answer to a question, I'll let you know, yes, that's the correct answer, so that you'll know that, and we can, have a little bit of a conversation. It'll be fun. All right, number one, or it's number 16, but number one of the trivia. What is the most visited national park in the USA? Most visited national park in the USA. Drop it down in the comments, reach out to me on social media, and let me know if you know the answer. Number two, or I'll just do the numbers that they have here. 17. How many national parks are there in total in the USA? 48, 52, 58, or 62? How many national parks are there in total in the USA? 48, 52, 58, or 62? This kind of surprised me, to be honest with you. They all surprised me because I didn't know the answer, but this one was a little bit surprising. All right, number 18. What country created the first national park in the world? This was crazy to me. I didn't have any idea. This was this was a really cool piece of trivia. So what country created the first national park in the world? Pretty interesting question. Number 19. What decade was Smokey the Bear born? Was he born in the 40s? That's 1940s. 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, or 1970s? What decade was Smokey the Bear born? And finally, number 20. How do you put out a campfire properly? What is the proper technique or method for putting out a campfire safely and efficiently? How do you put out a campfire properly? I didn't know this. We usually just dump water on it, let it burn out or whatever, because we've got a little fire pit thing. But there is a way. The U.S. Forest Service website describes like an actual process for putting out a campfire properly. What is that process to put out the campfire properly? So leave your answers to those questions down in the comments, or like I said, if you're listening to the audio version of this, which will come out after the video, just shortly after the video podcast, then reach out to me on social media and give me the answers, and I will let you guys know. Every comment, every message, everything that I get with an answer, I'll make sure to respond to you guys and let you know, yes, that's correct, or no, that's not correct. So leave those down in the comments, and we'll have a little bit of a conversation there. But there you go, guys. 20 questions, conversation starters, trivia, for your next camping trip. I had a lot of fun with this. I loved reading this article. Like I said, I'm thinking about taking it on our camping trip this weekend, to do it, with our family and see what their thoughts are, just to have some good conversation and some fun around the campfire. But let me know what you guys think about these questions. Answer some of these questions. Go back through and listen to the questions, or go to newventuretravels.com and read the article. Comment and message me your answers to these questions. I want to know what would you rather, or if you could, or your stories, your camping stories. I'd love to hear those. So connect with me in the comments or messages on social media with your answers to these questions. Guys, thanks so much for checking out another episode of Casting Campfires, and we will see you on the next one.